The 2026 NFL Draft is now over. And what grade would you give our Chicago Bears for their 2026 draft class? In baseball, the Cubs' win streak came to an end at La La Land, while the White Sox had a bit let down at home against the Washington Nationals. In basketball, the NBA playoffs have taken a huge turn thanks to major injuries to a couple of major stars. And in hockey, the Stanley Cup playoffs, we have a couple of game fives that need to be determined for the outcome of a major series. That, and we have a special edition of Old School TV Monday. That and a whole lot more. It's the Monday extravaganza start now.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Keep him on the field. And this one is dragged into left center field. Going back is Churio at the wall. Get out! Robert Jr. his fourth of the season. And the Sox take the lead 2-1.
Armstrong gets into another one. Sends Edman back. He's watching it land in the stands. What a night from Pete Crow Armstrong. Goes wide up the guard again. And he scores. What a play!
On Jordan Bennington. No chance at all for the Blues netminders. Connor Bedard. Wow.
Giddy, what a pass. Buzelis with the fade on the drive.
Tuesday motions left. They're blitzing. It's picked up. Caleb throws. Middle of the field. Loveland catch. Breaks away the 30. Loveland 20. Loveland 10. Loveland end zone. Touchdown Bears.
Welcome to another fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago. LaKeena McGee is she. Sidney Brown here. You know it's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion, do not 2 hour extravaganza. We call it Sports Talk at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll indoor or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given LaKeena full powers to give you dumbos to build and be a boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, shout out to our live game. That's LIVE Live Entertainment Game. Checking us out live and in living color right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels at 12:19 p.m. Central Standard Time. But as always, much love to the replay game that's checking us out on the replay. Also at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels. Don't you ever forget our motto when we talk sports, music, or entertainment. We will provide.
We buy you some of the best here on Second City Sports. If you hear any rain or thunder or something like that, sorry about that, folks. We apologize for that in advance because it is, if you guys know, it's starting to storm here in Chicago. It's gonna really pick up later. But if you're living in the brunt of it, or even in the parts where it's gonna get really, really bad, make sure you guys stay safe, take cover if you can. But with that said, though, we'll soldier on here in the last Monday show of April. We'll talk NBA and NHL playoffs as injuries start to take over in the NBA playoffs, while there have been a couple of series in the NHL playoffs that have already been decided. Now, of course, the sports media news. Of course, NBC has officially made their changes to their Football Night in America coverage for Sunday Night Football. Other sports media news. We'll also talk baseball as the Cubs, they lose 2-3 to the Dodgers, while the White Sox lose 2-3 to the Nationals and the rest of the weekend in MLB. But first, Sid, since the Bears the NFL draft in Pittsburgh is in the books officially, actually it happened on Saturday, But of course, we'll start with the Bears. We'll talk about the rest of the NFL after the break. But the Bears, well, it depends on who you ask. I guess if you want to ask how the Bears did, they did get Dylan Thieneman from Oregon the first round. They drafted Logan Jones in the second round, the center out of Iowa. Now they did trade back to get an extra third round pick. With tight end Sam Ross from Stanford, wide receiver Xavier Thomas out of LSU. Then they go to another corner in the fourth round at 124. They pick Malik Muhammad from Texas, one of the top cornerbacks in the SEC last year. They had Keyshawn Elliott, the linebacker from Arizona State, in the fifth round. And their last pick, which is in round 6, from Georgia, all first team All ACC, and apparently can jump out of a pool too. Well, we all know what happened there when the last guy that they drafted that could jump out of a pool. That didn't turn out very well. So, Sid, I mean, they finally, with their last pick, they finally got a D tackle. Okay. In the linebacker. So the last 2 picks were linebackers and defensive guys. Okay. But I guess the thing here was speed. I guess they're hoping that, Ben John's hoping that they could, he'll use speed to beat teams. I mean, speed can kill you too, but that's a different conversation. So, Sid, what did you think about the Bears draft?
I think they drafted in position of depth. Obviously, you can't get everything you want. You get what you need in the draft. But my question is, where was the pass rusher? Maybe Jordan Vandenberg will be the answer. I don't know. But the Bears did stick to their mission statement in the beginning of the offseason. We need to get younger. We need to get faster. Yes, they did that with some of the free agent signings and with these draft picks as well. But a couple of questions I want to pose to you. And like I said, I'm not saying these players are going to fail right off the bat, but why did you pick Sam Roush with the tight end in the third round? You traded your extra second round pick to get to go back in the third round to get an extra tight end. You have Cole Kmet on the roster. I know we didn't talk about this on our last show last Friday, but his contract and Jonah Jackson, the offensive lineman who got last year via trade from the Rams, their contracts, some of their money were transferred as roster bonuses. So Ryan Post created $10 million under the salary cap. So I want to point that out right there. But back to the draft pick with Sam Rush. Why did you select him? You only have 2 tight ends on the roster, and so I leave that pick as a big question mark. But I do love the pick of Xavier Thomas, the wide receiver out of LSU. Remember Luther Burden, as I said last year on this show, that he was going to be that playmaker that stretches the field. We saw signs of that last year, and we saw signs that Ben Johnson likes him as a quote-unquote gadget guy. So, and we saw him make big plays, especially during the second half of the year into the playoffs as well. So I think Xavier Thomas also could contribute to special teams as well. I know Khalif Raymond is the man right now who you picked up from Detroit in the offseason. But remember, Devin Duvernay is not on the team anymore. So I think Xavier Thomas will fill in those shoes very well. But LaKeena, I know you got Shamar Turner, the rookie linebacker, coming back from injury next year. You got a couple of other guys coming back from that defense. If you think hope is a strategy and Dennis Allen can coach up that defensive line, there's going to be some problems, especially in today's game. We saw it last year with the Bears. We saw some with some of the other teams. Defense still matters, even though the NFL is a scoring league right now. Defense still matters, folks. You still got to stop people. You think you can outscore your opponent on a consistent basis? You're not winning the Super Bowl. That's just the bottom line.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. LaKeena McGee, Sidney Brown with you as we recap the Bears and NFL draft. Now, as far as them training out of that second one of those second round picks, for me, I just think that it was basically timing. I think they wanted some of those edge rushers. Of course, TJ Parker, he ended up going to Buffalo. I think that's a really good spot for him. Cassius Howell from A&M, he ended up going to Cincinnati. Mason Thomas, who I think that's who they really wanted, he ended up going to Kansas City. So I think once it's also Josiah Trotter, who is Jeremiah Trotter's kid. That was a nice moment that they share. The linebacker from Missouri, all SEC. Mm-hmm. He ended up going to Tampa. They had one younger there in that front seven. So I think it's once a lot of those guys started getting drafted, I think that scared polls. That's why he traded back to get Jones and They get the extra third rounder. So I think that's why they did that. They won't say it, but I think that's why they did that. So I think Jones was a solid, a solid center from Iowa. Look, they always do well with the linemen there. So I don't have an issue with that. But I do, like I said, Sam Roush. I mean, look, no shade. I saw him at Stanford. He's a pretty good tight end. Xavier Thomas, like I said, I liked him too. But like I said, I mean, that was more for depth, and that's fine. Muhammad's one of the speedy guys. Again, speed. Again, the theme here, I guess, they're trying to see if they could use the speed to coach him up. So, okay, it could work. Maybe it may not work. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see once these guys go to OTAs and they play. So, look, I'm not a big believer in giving out grades right now when these guys haven't played yet. But again, look, they address some needs. It makes you, but there are other stuff that they made you scratch their head. So this is your typical Bears draft in the last few years since Poles has been the GM. So I'm not. Look, you're okay. You struck gold. It took you a while, but you struck gold with some of those picks in the last couple of years. But could they get a couple of gems from here? Maybe. But I think for me right now, I'm not giving out any grades. I'm not.
I'm not going to give out a grade either because, like you said, we haven't seen them play yet. I know Matt Miller, I believe, from ESPN.com said this draft class could put the Bears over the top and reaching the Super Bowl. I'm not sure about that. We'll see what happens. You know, there's a lot of injuries and a lot of people are not going to live up to the expectations potentially. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, you mentioned about the late round draft picks that Ryan Poles has selected over the years. Let's not forget about Kyle Monangai last year. We thought that he was going to be a big factor. We all thought it, but we didn't know how big of an impact he was going to have on this Bears offense. It turned out that he was one of the most important pieces on the team last year. Now, with linebacker Keyshawn Elliott and defensive lineman Jordan Vandenberg, could one of those guys or both those guys be contributing factors? We shall see. But I'm with you. I'm not ready to throw those late round picks in the. I'm not going. I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bath water. So we'll just have to be patient and wait and see what those late round picks. There's one more question I want to bring up to you and the listeners out there at Sports of Chicago's Facebook page and Sports of Chicago on YouTube. And for those of you watching on the replay, you can comment down below. I remember LaKeena asked this question last year, and some people said that it was a Ryan Poles draft, and some people said that it was a Ben Johnson draft last year. I'm going to ask this question again. Is it a quote-unquote 50-50 relationship, or is it 60-40 Ben Johnson, or a 30 relationship with Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles after this draft? What are the Bears doing? Will this quote-unquote strategy work? I don't know, but what say you about it? Is it still a quote-unquote 50-50 relationship? But with these draft picks, minus the first-round pick, it looks like completely like a Ben Johnson had a little bit more say this time than last year when he first came in here to coach the team.
Yeah. I think Tiemann, I think, is definitely, like I say, he's one of these speed guys, and we know Poles like speedy guys. I think the rest of this is definitely a Ben Johnson special, like I said, and going offense. Those next three picks after that, the last three, you could probably say maybe a mixture. We'll see, but yeah, it kind of feels like. Like he thinks he can coach. I'm talking about Coach Johnson thinks he can coach these guys up. All right, fine. And I think we'll see what the defensive coaches, of course, Dennis Allen. We'll see what with some of these defensive guys. I mean, again, we just don't know at this point. I mean, look, we've seen guys that suppose they're speedy guys. They end up not lasting very long in the league. So for me, it's just like, okay, yeah, I definitely think this is definitely it depends on what pick is. You can kind of tell which picks were. Okay, this is a Ben Johnson pick, or this is a Poles pick, or this is both a collaborative thing. So it really just depends on which pick that you're looking at.
I'll leave you with this statistic that I saw on television last night. With the Bears' defensive statistics from last season, sacks 35, ranked tied for 22nd. Tackles for loss 66, tied for 27th. Total pressures 121, 24th in the National Football League. Quarterback hits 84. Tied for 24th in the National Football League. And quarterback pressure rate percentage, 29.5. That was ranked third from the bottom in the National Football League. And this was suggested. We all said that GM Ryan Poles was supposed to get that edge rusher. We talked about that defensive lineman. But if you think you can coach him up and get more than you thought out of these guys, you think you can get more out of these guys going into the next season? Okay, I got my fingers crossed. Good luck. But as our good friend Josh Nelson from the Sox Machine always says, Hope it's not a strategy, but we'll have to wait and see what happens.
All right, we'll take a really quick break. Of course, we'll talk about the rest of the NFL draft. Some players, some players that got drafted, some guys that didn't get drafted and got signed. Some really nice stories, and a dog stealing the show at one of the draft parties, and maybe some baseball time permitted. LaKeena McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Hill Chicago. More draft recap coming up right after this.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGetty, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the Monday Extravaganza edition, the last Monday show for the month of April. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid the Kid is me. LaKeena McGee is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG. It's SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, again, IG.
As we continue our Bears and NFL draft wrap-up discussion to wrap up hour number one, if you have any questions or comments regarding that subject, you can definitely hit us up right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page. Don't be shy. Or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Don't be shy there either. Type in your questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get them up on the screen for you.
Let's go to the division opponents first in the NFC North for this draft. And, of course, we'll start with Detroit. Detroit, I think they had a solid draft. They drafted Blake Miller, the old tackle from Clemson, and then they got an edge rusher in the second round, Derek Moore from Michigan. Round four, they didn't have a third round pick, but round four, they did get Jimmy Water, also from Michigan. Keith Abney in the fifth round for Arizona State. Kendrick Law from Kentucky in round five. Skylar Gill Howard in Texas Tech, and Tyree West in the seventh round. I think the Detroit. I think they filled some of the needs, and I think they had a solid draft.
Detroit had offensive line issues last year. I know they lost a couple to retirement before the start of last year. Remember, their defense, especially in the secondary were horrible. They were worse than Lee. It's been a problem for the last couple of years. So, as you mentioned, they tried to address those needs. Will they be back in contention for the playoffs? Based on those draft picks, we shall see, as we talked about with Chicago early in our first segment. But on paper, they filled their needs. We'll see how well they're produced, because remember, Detroit is right underneath the Bears in terms of salary cap restrictions as well. So they did fill some needs. We'll see how it all plays out for them.
Going to the Packers, I thought, look, they only had six picks, like they only had six picks as well, like the Bears. But look, Brandon Siss, second round. Remember, they didn't have a first round pick from South Carolina, the corner. Chris McClellan from Missouri, the defensive tackle there. Danny Dennis Sutton, Penn State, the edge rusher. Center Jagger Burton, Damani from Kentucky, Damani Jackson from Bama, and the kicker with their last pick in the second, sixth rounder, Trey Smack from Florida. I mean, look, I think they sent all their picks, to Dallas for that Micah Parsons trade last year. But look, of course, Parsons still recovering from ACL surgery. Kenny Clark, after that trade. And look, I think this will definitely help them. I think this sense of lessons is actually really solid. So I think they had an okay draft. I'm sure they'll the needs. I think they still need a D lineman and maybe a little O line help as well. Maybe an extra tight end too. So I think Green Bay did okay. Maybe not. Maybe not as good as I thought they would, but they did okay.
Like you said, they did with the best they had. Like you said, you started to see the repercussions from that Micah Parsons trade, giving Jerry Jones and the Cowboys all those picks. But let's be honest here, their secondary, we're talking about the Packers, did suffer a lot last year, especially down in stretches, and especially in those two losses against Chicago. So you thought they were beef up a little bit more right there. I guarantee you, if they had a couple more draft picks, they would have definitely beat up that secondary there. But also, too, you need some more playmakers on offense. I know they lost one of their wide receivers in free agency. I know Christian Watson, when he's healthy, he's a dangerous weapon, but he's been injured the last 2 or 3 years. So I'm surprised they didn't try to get a sub wide receiver in the draft either. But like you said, this is the repercussions not having as many draft picks as you want to, because you traded basically, not quite, but quote unquote, the house to get Micah Parsons right before the start of last season.
Yeah, I think, to go Green Bay was in a tough spot there. They kind of did the best with what they had. Now, Minnesota, they did some picks that kind of made people scratch their heads, like the Bears. Caleb Banks, like I said, we talked about that at nauseum on Friday. Second and third round, they got Jake Golday, the linebacker, Dominic Orange from Iowa State, the D tackle. Now they did do better in the third round. Caleb Tiemann from Northwestern, the O tackle. I think he was second team All Big Ten, so that was a nice pick for them. Jacoby Thomas from Miami, and also Max Breederson from Michigan, the fullback. So they did better, I feel like, in the last day than they did in the first couple of days. But so I think Minnesota. I don't know if I don't know who made those decisions in the Pitts, because remember, they don't have a GM right now. But I think they did okay. I don't think they did great though.
Mm-hmm. Here's the thing: you trying to project how these players are going to do, and with not having the GM, as you mentioned, to make those picks. We talked about in our last show. You kind of swivel your head in water, trying to see monkey do. You just can't do that, especially in today's game. But for Minnesota, with those offensive linemen, you stacking up depth, and whoever's going to be the starting quarterback next year, whether it's JJ McCarthy or Kyler Murray, you have to have as much bodies on that offensive line as if possible, because those two quarterbacks are different from the way they play. We know Kyler Murray, he's short for who he is. He's not going to grow anytime soon. We all know how he plays. He loves to make plays, especially out of the pocket. J.J. McCarthy, he can scramble too, but that's not his game. He's your classic stand in the pocket guy. We saw that in Michigan where he didn't have to do too much good because he had a strong running game and a stronger defense. But the depth on that offensive line for Minnesota, I think, is solid on paper, but how will it hold up against hold up not only against the teams in their own division, but the other teams outside they're gonna play in? Is going to be important who plays quarterback, whether it's McCarthy or Murray, because those offensive linemen, not all linemen are suitable for the games that those two quarterbacks attributes of those two quarterbacks have. So it's very different, but we got to see who those offensive linemen, which attributes fits one of those quarterbacks best.
Yeah, I agree. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Now, as far as the rest of the league is concerned, like, we won't go team by team, but we'll just do our standouts for which team that we thought had the best draft. And again, just our opinion. I think Buffalo did a really nice job with their picks. I mean, I think they they got, well, we talked about it earlier. They got TJ Parker, the edge rusher from Clemson. I think Skylar Bell from UConn. I think that could be a steal potentially. Probably one of the better wide receivers in the league in the country that you guys probably never saw much because, of course, he plays at UConn. I think Zane Durant could be a good one there. Could be a steal there at round 5, their D tackle. So they definitely filled in some needs.
The New York Jets, Darrell Jackson Jr., the defensive tackle out of Florida State in the 4th round, their first 4th round pick. I thought it was an interesting selection. Cade Klubnik, the quarterback out of Clemson. I know he was a Heisman candidate going into last year, but Clemson struggled his last 2 years. Obviously, he's going to be a project with the New York Jets. And Eric Glenn's under fire to win games in his 2nd year. I know they have Geno Smith there, but I think Cade Klubnik, I think it's going to play a little bit more than he's anticipated. So I think it's going to be how important how many reps he's going to get in training camp and in the preseason as well, because I don't think Geno Smith is going to last the whole year in his return to New York. So we'll leave that there. But Caleb Proctor, another 4th round selection for the Arizona Cardinals, out of the defensive tackle out of Louisiana, Southeast Louisiana. I think he's going to surprise some people. I really do. And the Cardinals, with their 3rd round pick, drafted Carson Beck. Now, we know that Jacoby Brissett has earned his position. He's going to be the starter for now. But just like I said with Cade Klubnik just a second ago, how long do you think will take before Carson Beck gets on the field for the Cardinals, since they're rebuilding now?
Yeah, that's going to be the very interesting there. I mean, like you said, he could be the future. We'll see. Once they get the contract settled with Brissett, I think Carson Beck could be the heir apparent there. Remember that they got a whole new regime there, so I know they're going to want to make their mark. I think getting Love and Beck and Proctor, I think that could be a really good solid foundation that could be building out there in Arizona. We'll see. Atlanta, I guess. But I think I think this is gonna be interesting to see what they do there. They did get Harold Perkins Jr. From LSU in the 6th round. I think that's a lot. I think a lot of Bears fans wanted him in the 6th round, but that didn't happen. Now I will say another team that I think had a solid draft, I think, was Baltimore. They got Ione from Penn State. I think Zion Young from Missouri, the edge rusher. I think he could be a good extra guy on the back end of that edge rush. Jacoby Lane from USC. I think he could be another potential target for Lamar Jackson to throw to. Chandler Rivers, who was one of the reasons why Duke became ACC champions last year. I think he could be a really solid extra corner, a speedy guy for them. So I think Baltimore, I feel like, had a good draft too.
I want to ask you about the Cleveland Browns, and this guy's name I couldn't think of on Friday, but remember Quinshon Judkins, a rookie running back, now going to the 2nd year of Ohio State. His name escaped me last Friday, but Andrew Barry, I thought him and his GM on the Browns, I thought him and his staff did a good job and selected him last year. I know many people have praised his staff this year on the draft. What say you? I thought it was okay, but what say you? Like I said, you're a college football guru on this show. You know way more than I do. But do you think Cleveland has finally turned the corner?
I think that I think like I said, I think Fano and Concepcion. I think those are really two solid first rounders. I think there's Boston. I think the wide receiver. I think that's what I think Bears fans wanted him. If you're going to pick a wide receiver, second or third round, that could probably work out with him and Shador. We'll see. Emmanuel McNeil Warren, the safety from Toledo. I think he's one of those other guys that kind of rised up. I think they had a solid draft. I think. They got started, like I said, of course, we know about Fano. He's a great starting tackle. The Travis Hunter thing, I think that's going to, linger for some people for a little bit, but out there in Cleveland. But again, I think I think they had a good draft. Cleveland did. Now, Denver, I think, had a really good draft as well. Like I said, they didn't pick until the third round, but they made the best of what they got. Jonah Coleman from Washington, the running back. Casey from Boise State, who is one of the top offensive guards in the country. I thought that was a really solid pick for them. And Tyler Odium from A&M, the defensive tackle there. So I think Denver did okay with their draft selections.
You're listening to Second City Sports Zone Chicago City. LaKeena here with you, reviewing our top picks and giving out grades, at least LaKeena is anyway, from the 2026 NFL Draft right here on Second City Sports Zone Chicago. Shout out to our guy, Brandon Schutz in the chat. We see you, Brandon. We'll talk about the Rockets staying alive next hour, along with your Astros getting the win over the Yankees yesterday. We'll touch on all that coming up next hour. But back to the NFL Draft, I just want to highlight these couple of selections from the fifth round. Kamari Ramsey, the safety out of USC, he went to the Houston Texans as their first selection in the fifth round. The Houston Texans have a strong defense, a Super Bowl caliber defense. I think he may be a factor in his rookie year, but they have so many other veteran guys ahead of him. I don't know if he's going to be counted on right away, but I think he could be a difference maker at some point next year. There was another fifth round pick I wanted to highlight here. Let's see, I'm going through this list right now. Lorenzo Styles Jr., the safety out of Ohio State, he goes to the New Orleans Saints. Now, the Saints, we said for the last few years, with Cameron Jordan, Teron Matthew, and some of the other guys, they're getting older, especially in that secondary. I thought this was an important pick for the Saints right here.
I think Styles, of course, Sonny Styles, of course, that's his brother. Lorenzo plays safety, another one of the top safeties in the Big Ten last year. And I think I think the Saints overall had a really solid draft. I think they got Jordan Tyson from Arizona State. They got Christian Miller in the second round from Georgia. Oscar Delp also from Georgia, the tight end. I think that's a really solid. We've seen Georgia guys do very well in recent years. So, and also Delp's dog stole the show there. If you saw the clip, it's been showing all over the place all weekend. I wonder if that dog the dog got his seat, but I think look, they also got Bryce Lance, who's Trey Lance's brother. Also, he's a wide receiver from North Dakota State. I think they've got something good here. Look, Kellen Moore is going to the second year, and the Saints did very well last year. Tyler Show has showed that he's really good. Can he keep it up? Can the Saints get back? Get on the rise again? We'll have to wait and see. But I think the Saints also had a solid draft.
Yep, I could agree with you more. A couple of highlighted picks in the seventh round. I just missed it here with my damn computer. From Illinois, Mal Scott, the safety out of the University of Illinois, he was selected by the Denver Broncos. Gary Nussmeier, the quarterback out of LSU, he goes to Kansas City. Of course, he's going to be behind Patrick Mahomes and Justin Fields, so he's going to be basically running scout team. So we'll see what happens with him. Dalen Bentley, the tight end of Utah, he goes to the Denver Broncos. And the Mr. Irrelevant pick, the last pick of the NFL draft, goes to Red Murdoch out of the University of Buffalo. The Denver Broncos selected him as Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick of the NFL draft. That's a good name to market, LaKeena, if he ever gets on the field.
Yeah, I mean, look, you should go with that. And look, Brock Purdy was a Mr. Irrelevant, and look at him. So, Mr. Irrelevant, you could be very relevant. So we'll see if he can be kind of like, build off that. Now, shout out to UR Bernard from Nigeria. Didn't play a single down of college football. He sent his he was doing a lot of training. I know I think his videos were shown all over Instagram. He sent it to all the NFL teams, and look, he ended up getting drafted by Philadelphia. I mean, I don't know if he'll be able to do anything. Like I said, considering the fact that he doesn't have a lot of, he is very athletic. He is very fast. He's 6'4", 306, so he could be a good, depth, from that front seven. I just like, you just like his story, I guess. And look, will he? Like I said, will we see him starting for Philadelphia? Maybe not, but I think it's a good story to kind of point out that, hey, look, if you persevere, you can make a dream come true. So you'll be cheering for him. We'll be cheering to him to at least try to make the 40, the top roster.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena here with you. We're discussing the rest of the NFL draft that wrapped up over the weekend from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Before we get to Mike Tomlin to wrap up this hour, LaKeena, a couple other picks I want to discuss with you. Before we get to the Pittsburgh third-round pick, the New York Giants third-round pick, Malachi Fields, the wide receiver out of Notre Dame. We talked about the Giants and new coach John Harbaugh needing playmakers on offense. Of course, they didn't go with Jeremiah Love. The Arizona Cardinals we selected him 2 spots ahead of the Giants. But I think that the selection of Fields is very important because you have Malik Neighbors coming back from that torn ACL from last year. He's going to his 3rd year out of LSU. Now you have Malachi Fields from Notre Dame. I think that could be a nice 1-2 combo. And we'll see how much that their quarterback Jackson Dart matures from year 1 to year 2.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see. I think Averill Reese, was like a Christmas gift when he fell to them at 5. So I think if you're John Harbaugh, you're fine with that. They also got, of course, Francis Malagiola from Miami, who I really like. Look, I think the Malachi Fields could be one of those sleeper picks where, look, he could definitely I think he could definitely be, kind of right there right away and such to be an extra depth guy in that receiving core. We saw what happened last year with Neighbors. I think, health is an issue, going to become an issue for him. So, having that extra guy there who is more than capable of catching and running, he also can block too. So yeah, I think that was a good pick for the Giants.
And for the Pittsburgh Steelers with the 76th pick overall, of course, in the 3rd round, they selected quarterback Drew Aller of Penn State. What do you make of this? I know some people say, oh, he could be the future at some point, but, they have the Aaron Rodgers cloud hanging over their head. You have new head coach Mike McCarthy, who coached Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay almost a couple of decades back. Do you make too much big deal of this? I don't.
No, I mean, I think it's just look. They've got to look. I think Mike McCarthy. I think he wants to, wants to put a stamp on it. I think he's definitely Drew Aller could definitely learn from whoever ends up being in that QB room with them. So I'm not. I know Steelers fans are probably already making him the heir apparent, I guess. But I guess a little bit early to say that. But look, I think that he could definitely be. But like I said, just have to wait and see what happens with Aaron Rodgers.
All right, speaking of the Pittsburgh Steelers, of course, former Steelers head coach of 19 years, Mike Tomlin, he was on the NBA on NBC pregame show yesterday before the NBA playoffs doubleheader. As we mentioned, we'll discuss the NBA playoffs in our next hour. But Mike Tomlin was interviewed by Miss Maria Taylor, who are now also announced too that the Football Night in America pregame show will go on the road every week throughout the season. To get you set for that for Sunday Night Football. But Mike Tomlin was interviewed yesterday. I want to get your thoughts on what did you think he said about the reason why he stepped down, and what do you think that we know that what his new role is going to be. He's going to be on set, breaking down games. You can tell that he's still passionate about football, and he's looking forward to the challenge. He says that he can spend a little bit more time with his family now for the first time in almost 2 decades. But I think that we said this with Sean Payton when he worked with Fox a couple years ago before he took the Denver job. I thought he was okay, but I really can't wait to see Mike Tomlin. It's definitely going to be some new fresh blood on that Football Night America pregame show.
I was hoping to wait till we do our sports media news segment, but to do this. But well, look, we'll do it now. I mean, he sounded really good. He's very witty and he looks about 10 years younger already, and coaching.
Yeah.
Not coaching anymore. He came to the age where we've seen guys do that. So yeah, I think he's gonna be a great addition to that set. Depending on how they set up. Of course, Chris Sims made the announcement earlier this morning that he is no longer going to be a part of that coverage. He's still going to be with NBC doing some of their football coverage. He's still going to be hosting the show with Mike Florio every morning. But he just won't be a part of that crew, the Sunday Night in America, the Football Night in America crew anymore. So, but yeah, I think Tom will be a great addition, depending on how they set the whole thing up. But you can tell that with Tomlin coming in, I think they're gonna build it around him and go in that direction. And look, I think this is gonna be interesting to see what happens, especially since they're gonna be going out and about every week for their Sunday Night Football game, which I think is actually pretty good because, look, ABC does with their Monday Night Football coverage, for the most part. So, why I'm sure NBC said, okay, you know what, let's do it with our crew.
And also, too, I think this will be a stipulation in Mike Tomlin's contract, if not already. And we talked about this with Sean Payton a couple years ago when he worked at Fox. There's going to be a firing or two during the regular season. Will Mike Tomlin's phone be ringing during the season? If you're NBC, we like to keep you, especially if you're doing a good job. Unlike George Seifert when CBS got the NFL back in 1998. Remember, around Thanksgiving, they let him go and then no one noticed. And then the pregame show was revamped for the next year, and they continue on the positive note ever since. But if we see a firing or two during the regular season, we know that Mike Tomlin's phone will be ringing, but does NBC have it in his contract? Well, you cannot work until at least our coverage for the season is over.
Yeah, I'm sure they put it on there. I'm sure NBC is not crazy. I'm sure they put the stipulations on there to look, if you get called for a job, you can't leave, mid-season. You got to wait till the end of the season, blah, 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 fulfill your commitments and whatever. I'm sure CBS probably wish they had done that with Matt Ryan last season, but with the front office stuff. But yeah, I'm sure you're going to be seeing networks do that from now on. Make sure players, coaches, I'm sure they're going to put those stipulations where, look, if you want to play again, you got to fulfill your contract, or coach, you got to fulfill your contract first. So,
and don't forget the NFL schedules will be released, I believe, less than 2 weeks in early May. So we'll see where the Bears will start up. Will they play on Thanksgiving Day? How many primetime games will they have? I still say they'll have 5 primetime games. I'll just leave it there. But the schedule for all 32 teams will come out in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned right here on Second City Sports. We'll bring that to you as always. Hour number 1 is finished. Hour number 2 starts following this timeout right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid LaKeena here with you. We will kick off hour number 2 discussing Major League Baseball. We had one firing over the weekend. Now going to our local teams, the Cubs. They got lost in La La Land, while the White Sox dropped a big momentum opportunity against the Nationals here in Chicago. And we'll get into the NBA playoffs and the Stanley Cup playoffs as well in a special edition of Old School TV Monday. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
How do you take care of your mind health?
For my mental health, I meditate in the mornings.
I have my dogs. They're the best.
I just find ways that help me just relax.
Finding things that make me happy, like being close to my family.
I meditate a lot and read books.
I have hobbies outside of the game. I'm able to switch off. I'm able to turn my brain off from the game of basketball.
Your mind health matters.
Your mind health matters.
It's a romance sport. What? It's a romance sport like that.
Your Marine Corps' way of life is to defend the American way of life. every day. No matter where we serve, we take a stand for our nation, for each other, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Every body in a work zone is someone's somebody.
This is my mom. She works for KDOT.
This is my dad.
This is my mom.
This is my daddy.
This is my sister.
This is my daddy.
This is my son, Scott. He was killed while working in a highway work zone. When you drive through a work zone, drive like a life depends on it. Because it does.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports, a Monday extravaganza edition. You're locked and loaded. And we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid the Kid is me. LaKeena McGee is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and the IG.
We kick off hour number 2 discussing the Chicago Cubs and the Chicago White Sox and the best and worst from this past weekend in Major League Baseball. If you have any questions or comments regarding that subject, you can definitely hit us up right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena, we get them up on the screen for you.
We may reach to teach a little NBA. We may go into also the NBA playoffs as well. Time for maybe at least recap a couple of the games from there, but. To the Diamond first, the Cubs, a tough start to their West Coast trip. They did win their opener against the Dodgers on Friday, coming back, winning the game in extras, but unfortunately, they lose the last two. They lost the Fox game of the week, 12-4, and they got shut out yesterday, 6-0. I mean, look, it is disappointing. A disappointing start, but look, the Dodgers are still the Dodgers, and I know that they've been having some injury issues right now. I'm talking about the Dodgers, but the Cubs have as well. Unfortunately, PCA didn't, get out of this slump. You thought that maybe the Dodgers would help, especially after some of the stuff he said about the Dodger fans. But unfortunately, that didn't help either. So, and it's been kind of like also the unsung heroes for the Dodgers. Have been kind of holding it down with some of the other guys, like Betts, and I know a couple of pitchers that they've guys are injured right now as well. But look, I'm not freaking out. I know some Cubs fans are, but the Dodgers, they're the 2-time champs for a reason. It's always next man up mentality with the Dodgers. So I wasn't expecting them to win this series. They got one game, and look, they got one game. Look, I thought they were going to get swept, honestly. I know the Dodgers have been kind of up and down lately too, but they'll be facing a Padres team. And that should be interesting too, starting tonight. And look, the Padres, they've been playing well lately, but they've had a tough go at it too. They split their series with the D-bats, but you never know with San Diego. But yeah, look, as far as the Cubs are concerned, look, with what they've got and what they've been going through, they're in a good spot.
Yeah, you have to go manager Craig Counsell for holding this thing together. You're still trying to figure out your bullpen. I know that Matthew Boyd is back in the starting rotation, which bumps down Javier Sot to the long relief guy in the bullpen. You're still trying to figure that out with the injuries going on right now. And you had a chance to win that game last Saturday before the Dodgers came back. Roki Sasaki was tremendous for the Dodgers. And, of course, Joseph Robleski, you mentioned one of the young guys, with Blake Snell on the IR. He stepped up yesterday with 6 innings pitched with 6 strikeouts and 4 walks, only giving up 4 hits in all. The Cubs, going back to yesterday, they left 12 runners on base. They were 0 for 20 with runners in scoring position. You're not going to win many games with that statistic. And you mentioned the Dodgers. They're the Dodgers for a reason now. Give the Cubs credit on Friday. James Italian got rubbed up early, but that offense in particular with Dan Swanson to lead the charge, they made the comeback and took the 10th straight Saturday with Moises Ballesteros. I want to see how much more playing time he's going to get. Are you going to continue to develop him, give him more playing time while you're trying to win at the same time? Because that's a big bet in that lineup for sure. He had a home run last Saturday, but Colin Ray, who's been more than your MVP, one of your unsung MVPs you're talking about with the Dodgers, but with the Cubs, rather holding it down with the injuries that they suffered in the starting rotation. It wasn't his day. He got roughed up. I still think he's going to be okay, but he got roughed up, and the Cubs suffered that loss last Saturday to end that 10-game losing streak. But could they have gotten an opportunity to take 2 out of 3? Yes, but like you said, you can't be too upset. At least you got one game out of it. The Cubs showed in that game last Friday that they didn't quit. They came back and won. But now you're facing a San Diego team that, like you said, they're coming off those 2 games in Mexico City against their division rival Diamondbacks. Let's see if the Cubs can take advantage of perhaps some fatigue from the travel from the Padres getting them back into their hometown yesterday. So we'll see what happens there. But for the Cubs right now, yes, you just had a 10-game winning streak. Yes, you lost your last 2 games, but you should be 2 down. Yeah, let's see if they can pick it back up and take at least 2 out of 3 from San Diego.
Your starters for that game against San Diego, Matthew Boyd tonight against Randy Vasquez. Tomorrow you got Edward Cabrera and Walker Buehler. Our old buddy Walker Buehler's over there at San Diego now. And James Italian against Matt Waldron, the rubber match of that Padres series. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how San Diego looks. I mean, it's not like they went like Canada or like to Europe or something. They're coming back from Mexico, so maybe fatigue you and maybe they can take advantage of that. But yeah, we'll see what happens here. But like I said, I think if you can take 2 out of 3 in San Diego, which is never easy. Look, we've seen the Cubs, have good series, but also not so good series against the Padres in San Diego. So hopefully it'll be the last this time. Now, as far as the White Sox are concerned, I know you went to a couple of the games over the weekend, Sid. Unfortunately, the Nationals, speaking of leaving, guys in scoring position, I think they left like 10 guys on scoring position in that whole week, in that whole last 2 games, especially. They should have won that game on Saturday. They probably should have won this game yesterday. And unfortunately, weren't able to capitalize on that. And, basically wasted a good start by Brian Hudson. And look, I think unfortunately this is what happens. Look, you thought the White Sox were going to have the momentum to kind of, sort of like make a little bit of a move, get close to 500. Then they lose 2 out of 3 to the Nats, and that ended up not being the case.
Yeah, and this is a sign of a young team, as we talked about here. We all know that not everyone from the process they want to see on this big league roster are up yet, so we have to wait and see on that. As far as the team that you have right now, yes, they benefited from good weather and getting out on the road the last week, and we saw what this offense can do. Now, Munetaka Murakami, he did swing at some bad pitches. He knows to strike some, but he's still adjusting to Major League pitch. As we said, it's going to take some time for him to adjust. He swung at some bad pitches for strike calls the last 2 games. Now, the home run that he did hit last Friday in the series opener, that was off of a changeup. He got enough to get it out into center field, so you like seeing that right there. But as far as the starting pitcher, LaKeena, it was Fridays was kind of up and down, but the Sox did battle back to win that series opener. But last Saturday, and of course yesterday, Noah Schultz, 8 strikeouts. He pitched his ass off, but the White Sox, after tying the game in the 8th inning last Saturday, they just one more run across, as you mentioned, to snatch victory from the Jaws defeat. And then, of course, yesterday it also scoreless game until the 10th inning, where it opened up for the Washington Nationals. I know Tanner Murray got hurt on that play, where she made the second on the Washington Nationals, scored their first run of the game. So hopefully Tanner Murray is okay for down the road. But you mentioned about Brian Hudson. He opened the game yesterday, had a shutout first inning, but Sean Burke pitched 7 in the 3rd innings. He's been very good in his last couple of starts, but the problem is for the Sox, as you mentioned, I saw it too up and close the last 2 days. You leaving runners in scoring position, thinking about the home run just a little bit too much. It's not that warm yet. They they got him over, but they just couldn't get him across home plate. In my opinion, you just have to be a little bit more aggressive there. These guys are trying, but you gotta get some score some runs consistently when you're not hitting the home runs.
All right, and then they have the Angels starting. Well, let's be honest, they're going to start playing tomorrow because the weather they won't let them play tonight. So that's not happening. They haven't made it official yet. I'm surprised they haven't made it official yet, but safe to say that I don't think they'll be playing tonight. So we're just to see what the schedule will be. Now, weather permitting, I doubt they're going to play, but weather permitting tonight, it'll be Anthony Kay, who had a solid showing in his last start against Jack Coconowitz. To say that 5 times fast. And then you've got the second game will probably be a doubleheader game. Davis Martin against Jose Soriano. That should be a fun matchup. Soriano's 5-0. And also the rubber match here, Eric Fetty against Yusei Kikuchi. So look, I think the White Sox could perhaps maybe win this series 2 out of 3. Again, depends on how the schedule. Depending how the schedule will be, especially with the weather for tonight. But I think the White Sox should be able to get 2 out of 3 in this series. But before they go back out west and play the Angels again next week, we'll explain that on Friday. But so I think it's enough for the White Sox to at least get 2 out of 3. They should. I mean, I think would you be disappointed if they don't take 2 out of 3 against the Angels the first part of the week?
Be honest with you, yeah, I'll be surprised they don't take at least 2 out of 3 because the pitching matchups are in your favor, especially the last 2 matchups, last 2 games for that series. Eric Freddy will go on the getaway day on Wednesday. Of course, Davis Martin, as I said on the show, he could be the surprise player that people are not talking about this year in the starting rotation. So he's going tomorrow. Perhaps in that second game, like you say, if a doubleheader occurs tomorrow, this opening game gets rained out tonight. But Anthony Kay, he got rocked in his last start at Arizona, the lone game that the Sox lost out there. So he needs a good bounce back game tonight or tomorrow if the game is rescheduled for tomorrow. So the White Sox just got to keep plugging at it. Do not depend on the home run because it's not consistently warm here in Chicago yet. So, and Murakami just got to adjust to the opposing starting pitchers. He knows the strike, so as I mentioned, but his total hits is 23 for the year. Half of them are for home runs with 10. Almost half of them home runs with 10. So, he hasn't had a double yet nor a triple yet. So, hopefully he can learn to adjust more to the strike zone. He knows the strike zone apparently because he wins most of his APS challenges. But as long as he can continue to adjust to the strike zone, and other guys around him like Chase Mindroff is starting to turn it around a little bit. Miguel Vargas struggled a little bit ever since he returned home, as the Sox returned home. As long as you get some more protection, more people around that lineup to protect Murakami, I think this White Sox offense will be okay.
All right, listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you as we talk the rest of the MLB. Here now, if you had Alex Cora being the first MLB manager to get the boot, especially this early on in the season, you won apparently. Of course, he was fired kind of like in the middle of like a late Saturday afternoon or early Saturday evening, and there have been some stuff that have come out about it that it was ownership's call apparently to Craig Breslow, the chief baseball officer. He was the one that made that call to fire Cora. Now, to their credit, though, the Red Sox did win 2 out of 3 against the Orioles this weekend in Baltimore, including 17-1 after the news came out. Maybe that'll let a fire up under the Tucuses, but who knows? But Boston has not had a good start this year. Whether you'll look at managerial change was needed, who knows? We'll see as down the line here. But Boston, all that stuff happening in Boston is like a soap opera over there right now.
Yeah, as we talked about on the show last week, when their Boston's starting pitchers pitch 6 innings or more, they damn near are undefeated. But when their starting pitchers pitch less than 6 innings, they just about lose every game. So it starts with their starting pitching. The offense obviously has not been in sync, unlike around this time last year. So, and of course, from what I read and heard, that some of the players were getting tired of Alex Corras's voice. So maybe it was time for a change. But things are messy over there right now. Maybe Jason Varitek, their longtime bench coach, former World Series champion from back in a couple of decades ago. Maybe he'll be named the new manager at some point. We'll see. But Boston has high expectations, like they always do every year. Of course, they went to the playoffs last year, lost in the wild card round to the New York Yankees. They got some talent over there. That's not the question, but just things just haven't clicked to start the year. And Trevor Story coming out on social media saying that not everybody was allowed to speak at this meeting. And some people are saying that Alex Bregman, who was on that club last year, maybe he was the smartest man after all. He left Boston. Now he's doing this thing with the Cubs. Maybe that tells you something as well. Maybe he saw the train going down the tracks. He's like, yeah, okay, I'll leave Boston, and Chicago signs me, and look what's happening now.
Yeah, I mean, he was very cordial when he left Boston. Talk about Bregman, so he didn't really get into, perhaps maybe wisely didn't get into too many details of why he left, but yeah, I think you wonder maybe he was probably the smartest person to leave the Red Sox. And look, he's been it's paying dividends with the Cubs so far. Now staying in that in the AL East, the Yankees went 2 out of 3 in Houston, so they're starting to kind of figure things out a little bit. Their pitching still concerns me a little bit, but Eric Getty only allowed 1 run in 7 innings. And Christian Walker's been playing, he had like 6 RBIs in that entire series. Mm-hmm. So it looks like so unfortunately, Giancarlo Stanley is on the IL again. So that's something to look out for. But at least right now, the Yankees have been playing very solid in the last couple of weeks.
And that starting pitch is starting to get back on track as well. I know, despite Aaron Judge hitting a home run yesterday, that we told you a couple of weeks ago, we're talking about the Yankees bullpen. We're giving up almost 8 runs a game in that long stretch, especially in that 4-game series against the Angels a couple of weeks ago at Yankee Stadium. But their bullpen, along with their starting pitcher, has turned it around here this last couple of weeks. Because you know that the Yankees going to hit the ball a ton, and that goes without saying. But their starting pitcher has really set the tone there. Mentioned with the offense with Aaron Judge, but Chaz Jessamine has really turned it around, and Ben Rice has been a stud at first base, especially with his glove and his bat. So things are looking up for the Yankees right now.
Okay, and the Rays swept the Twins. They've won 4 in a row. Toronto, they're starting to kind of get it going a little bit. They went 2 out of 3 against Cleveland. And to go into the AL Central, Detroit, they lose 2 out of 3, but they did win the rubber match yesterday to avoid getting swept against Cincy. So it looks like Detroit's starting to figure things out there. Kansas City, they're starting to kind of get it going a little bit. They did sweep the Angels, so we'll see. The Angels, if they've kind of fallen back to earth a little bit. The Royals are starting to get it going, so we'll see what happens. They can keep it up. And AL West, well, seems like nobody wants to win a division right now. The A's are leading that one right now. They win 2 out of 3 against Texas, just outside Arlington. Seattle, they're starting to get it going. They sweep the Cardinals. They've won 4 in a row, so it looks like Seattle with their pitching. Logan Gilbert hasn't had to catch any more balls from his shirt underneath his shirt, but but it looks like Julio Rodriguez, he's starting to get it going. George Kirby, he's getting it going. On the pitching side, he won his 3rd consecutive start to start that series against the Cardinals, and was ended up being a really good game there on Friday. Josh Naylor has been really solid too. He's starting to heat up, so it looks like the Mariners starting to figure things out.
Yeah, like you said, the offense really came to life this past weekend in St. Louis. We already know that Seattle has a good starting rotation and a good bullpen, but that offense, we talked about it points last year before the trade deadline, that they need that big bat. They did get it in Eugenio Suarez now with the Cincinnati Reds, but the offense has to give the whole pitching staff relief, and Seattle can score some runs consistently. I think they'll be okay. I know we still come Oakland on this show, but the Oakland Athletics are still the top of the heap in the AL West, and we all know that Texas may be sneaking around, sniffing around there as well. But I think Seattle's still the class of that division. Going back to Detroit, LaKeena, we talked about Munataka Murakami being the front runner for American League Rookie of the Year. Detroit's rookie shortstop Kevin McGonigal, excuse me, he's in the race for that award as well. He's averaging 330 with 2 home runs and 12 RBI. He had five hits, including a home run in last Saturday's loss in that series against Cincinnati. He definitely makes that Detroit offense go. You still have Riley Green and Spencer Torgerson, but Kevin McGonigal, you keep your eye on him. Him and Murakami and Chase DeLauder from the Cleveland Guardians, those are your 3 top runners, in my opinion, as of right now for AL Rookie of the Year. I know the month of April will end later this week, but keep your eye on Kevin McGonigal, the rookie shortstop of the Detroit Tigers. He's swinging a hot stick right now.
Yeah, it's been really solid. Kind of just started the run that Detroit's been on. I know they lost 2 out of 3, but the Cincy, but you know what, that's fine. He's actually still been really solid for them. Now, as far as the National League in the East, the Braves, they won 2 out of 3 against Philadelphia. Miami, they haven't done well either. And Philadelphia and the Mets are just and the Mets got swept by the Rockies at home at Citi Field, and I'm surprised no one there was throwing things, but just a brutal stretch. And both of the 2 teams that a lot of people thought that would be up there with Atlanta in the National League East, that's not the case right now.
Yeah. Maybe Philadelphia turns around, like you said. They did end their losing streak last Saturday, but they still lost 2 out of 3 in Atlanta. I think that I have just a tiny bit more faith in Philadelphia than the Mets. The Mets, of course, they try to reconstruct their roster to mimic what the Milwaukee Brewers have done over the last few years. Carlos Mendoza, their manager, is on the hot seat. Their general manager should be on a hotter seat, but we all know how this goes. If the Mets don't get turned around, usually the manager gets fired first. But it always reminds me, I think you remember Willie Randolph, the longtime MLB player. He was a coach on the Joe Torre staff back with the Yankees back in the day when they started winning. Remember, he was the manager of the New York Mets when they lost in Game 7 of the NLCS against St. Louis. Remember, he was the manager. He got fired a couple years later in 2008. He got a role deal. It was almost kind of a similar start. But you do have to give the Mets a chance to get out of this thing. I know we'll get to that schedule in just a moment, but I think by this time next week, if they don't have a nice hot streak, Carlos Mendoza may get the pink slip and link card. Since April 8th, the Mets are 2-13 and barely scoring over 2.1 runs per ball game. That's definitely not going to get it done.
No, it will not. And going back to going back to the Braves for a second. Shout out to Chris Sale for that rubber match game against Philadelphia. He gets 150th career win, overall. So this is actually the second time he's pitched in 9 days. So he was still at a pretty good high level. So good for him. He's doing big things down there in Atlanta. As far as the Central, we talked about the Reds. We talked about the Cubs in St. Louis. The Pirates, they beat the Brewers 2 out of 3. Now, again, I know Kyle Harrison's been really solid for them. I know Byron Gonzalez. We saw what they did to the Cubs, but it's gonna be interesting to see if the Pirates can keep it up. I know some people said the Pirates could perhaps maybe compete for one of the wild card spots. We'll see. Still very early in the season, but yeah, I think so far Pittsburgh has looked good. I'll say that.
Yeah, they do have the strong starting step outside of Paul Skeens. Mitch Keller is pitching well. So and you still have a couple other guys in the back end of the rotation. But I think Connor Griffith and Brian Reynolds, their star rookie, Connor Griffith, is going to take him a little bit of time, but he has to get it going. You can see that great talent in that young man, 19 years old, all of him. And you have veterans like Marcell Ozuna and O'Neal Cruz. If you can stay focused and catching the ball, I think the Pirates would be okay. I mentioned about Paul Skeens. Shout out to him. He took a no-hitter into the 7th last Friday before giving up his lone hit, and then 6-0 shutout win in Milwaukee. So, like you said, maybe they are for real, but I need to see them for a few more weeks. I'll probably give out a fair judgment on Memorial Day. You kind of get to see what the identity of these teams are. So for me, for Pittsburgh, I need to see him for a few more weeks before I give a sign of adjustment. Right now, the off to a 15-11 start, but with you, I need to see it just a little bit more.
Now, as far as Nationally West is concerned, the Giants, they've won 7 of the last 10, including 2 out of 3 against Miami over the weekend. It looks like they're starting to kind of get it going. Like, I don't know if they're going to challenge the Dodgers and the Padres for the West Division, but look, Glass now, remember, he's over there now. He and Terrence got by for a one hitter on Thursday to avoid this getting swept by the Dodgers. But the Dodgers, whether they lost that game, we'll talk about the Giants. But Liam Hicks, Connor Norby, I think they each home run in that game. For the Marlins. Now, as far as the Giants are concerned, Casey Smith, has been playing very well. Drew Gilbert, they got a nice young talent, nucleus down there in the Giants. We'll see if they're starting to figure things out. Look, could the Giants perhaps maybe challenge one of those wild card spots? We'll see. But I kind of like where they're going. They're starting to kind of playing into the new manager system, and it looks like they're at least right now they're starting to listen.
Yeah, hopefully you get the bats of Matt Chapman and Rafi Devers going. Of course, he was a big acquisition last year from the Boston Red Sox, and maybe he knew something that was about Alan's core that people didn't know over a year ago. But that's neither here or there. But hopefully, the Giants can get Devers' back going, and that offense can take off, because, like you say, it's in my opinion, a 2-team race out there in the NL West between the Dodgers and the Padres. Maybe the Giants can ruin the party. I'm using air quotes here if you can see it. So we'll see what happens. But those two bats can get going. Talking about Chapman and Devers, look out.
All right, going into the schedule for this week, starting tonight. Now, some of these places it might be weather permitting, so bear with us here. The Cleveland and Tampa. The Guardians host Tampa. The first game of that series will be on FS1 later this afternoon. St. Louis and Pittsburgh. Boston and Toronto. We'll see if Boston can keep that momentum going since switching managers. Now, again, weather permitting, I'm using the bold here. The Angels and the White Sox. I doubt they'll play this game tonight, but just for sister saying it, we'll see. Seattle, they continue their East Coast trip. They face Minnesota. The first game of that series will be on FS1. The Yankees against Texas. The Cubs, they start their series out in San Diego against the Padres. And the Marlins continue their West Coast swing as they face the Dodgers.
All right, other series that will be starting tomorrow are as follows: Tampa Bay at Cleveland, Houston at Baltimore, Colorado at Cincinnati. The aforementioned San Francisco Giants, they'll face Philadelphia in the city of brotherly love. You mentioned Boston, Toronto. The Washington Nationals, they'll pay a visit to New York to meet the Mets. Let's see if they can beat the Mets and send that team on the downward spiral on the tailspin. Interleague matchup here, the Detroit Tigers will face the Atlanta Braves. The Arizona Diamondbacks will travel 90 miles north to Milwaukee to meet the Brewers. LaKeena's other favorite team, the Seattle Mariners, will face the Minnesota Twins. And we'll have the Kansas City Royals going out west to Sacramento to face the Oakland Athletics. That's what we'll call them on the show. So that's all the series that will be starting tomorrow.
Your other national TV series, the Prime Video, the Yankees and Texas for tomorrow. That will be on Prime. So all you Yankees fans will, make sure you guys check that out. The Tigers, Atlanta, the first game of that series will be on the old Superstation for Atlanta, for the Braves, the TBS, old school back in the day there. And your MLB Network game will be the Giants and the Phillies. Excuse me. And for Thursday, let's see if there's any. Now, Detroit, they start their series with Atlanta. Speaking of Houston and Baltimore, St. Louis and Pittsburgh, Colorado and Cincy. The Giants and the Phillies will be finished up their series, as well the Nats and the Mets, Arizona and Milwaukee, Kansas City and Oakland / Sacramento, whatever they're going by now. And Toronto will be starting their series against Minnesota. That's the schedule for this week in MLB.
You're listening to Second City Sports Zone Chicago City. LaKeena here, kicking it with you. When we return in our sports potpourri segment, we got to discuss the NBA playoffs. The number one storyline, injuries, and it's affecting one series in particular in the Western Eastern Conference. The Stanley Cup playoffs are heating up. 2 series sweeps are already in the books, and we'll have a little bit more in a special edition of Old School TV Monday. Stay right here. You're listening to Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Oops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGee, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Ooh. Oh, and welcome back to Second C Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm LaKeena McGee. I think Sid's call dropped for a second. Maybe he'll be back in a minute here. You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter, execute again at IG, and also SidKid80 at SidKid80 right there for you. I think, like I said, the weather's been a little bit weird, so but yeah. But look, we'll, like I said, we'll give him a couple minutes to come back here. But we're gonna soldier on here and talk some NBA playoffs. We'll talk about last night's matchups here. And as the Lakers, well, unfortunately, they couldn't get the sweep against the Rockets. The Rockets played like a team that was on the verge of being eliminated, beating them by 19 points, I should say, 115-96 there on Thompson. Played like the Montas we've seen throughout the season so far. He had 23 points. Terry Eason, a playoff career high for him at 20 points. All 5 stars were in double figures for the Rockets. On the flip side for the Lakers, 19 points for DeAndre Ayton, even though he got tossed later in that game. And that was a pretty well. The game itself wasn't very good after the third quarter. The Rockets outscored the Lakers 34-18. So Sid, as we said, you're welcome Sid back now. Sid, what do you think about that that Houston Lakers game 4 from last night?
The Rockets played with more desperation, like a Min Thompson said to Miss Zora Stevens. We're excuse me, they were more the aggressive team. They were the more team, and they played more focused now. Excuse me, they did that last Friday without Kevin Durant. Of course, it took a LeBron James miracle three to send that game into overtime, and the Lakers grabbed momentum from there. But the Rockets played a complete game from start to finish. The Lakers couldn't really get it going. They committed 24 turnovers to only 13 for the Houston Rockets. So the Rockets took care of the basketball for the most part. But their 3-point shot top of the Rockets was excellent at 40% to the Lakers 23%. So the Lakers, as you mentioned, they really couldn't get it going. They were all out of whack, and they try to depend on LeBron to do too much, and this is what happens. So, but do I think the Houston Rockets are back in this series? No, I think the Lakers will take care of them on Wednesday in Game 5. I think the momentum and the pressure is still on the Lakers to get this done. I think they will get it done, but the Rockets just played one for pride and one for the home fans, and they got it done yesterday.
Yeah, especially with all the stuff that's supposedly going on with KD, and we'll see if KD is available on Wednesday. There's been some rumors that maybe they may try to trade him during the offseason. Who knows? But that's another story for another time. But yeah, I think we don't know the NBA doesn't like sweeps, so you can take that however what I just said. However, you want face value. Who knows? Face value, whatever, but we'll see if the Lakers can wrap that series up. And like I said, I'm sure they probably want to wrap it up at home. So we'll see if they can do that. Now, Boston takes a 3-1 lead in their series against Philadelphia. Peyton Pritchard had 32 points for the Celtics. Jason Tatum had 30, 20 points for Jaylen Brown. Like I said, Pritchard had 32 off the bench for the Celtics. 26 points for Joel Embiid, his first game of the playoffs, his first game in the last couple of months. Maxey had 22, PG had 16, but that was basically it for the most part for Philadelphia. So yeah, I know Boston is safe to say Boston is wrapping up this series.
Yeah, I think so as well. Philadelphia got contributions from their other scores. That was the reason why they won the last 2 games of that series, including Game 3 last Friday night. But as you mentioned, the Boston Celtics, they got back to playing Boston Celtics basketball, especially offensively, shooting a 3-point shot well. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown both getting it going. For Boston overall, they shot the ball at a 48% clip, rather, 45% for them. You mentioned Peyton Pritchard, who's been filling in for Jason Tatum all year long at the start position. He goes back to his 6-man role. He's been very good ever since going back. He's been very good all year, whether he's been started or coming off the bench. Now he's back to his natural role, coming off the bench. He really sparked play that Celtics run in that second half, especially in that fourth quarter. Nikolai Vucevic, LaKeena didn't do much, but he doesn't have to because he's not the man like he was here in Chicago. But he still had 4 points and 5 rebounds in 19 minutes of action. And let's not forget about Kata, number 88, 9 points and 8 rebounds. He's really been that workhorse all year in the paint, mostly defensively, but his offensive game has really been coming on very well. So, and of course, you know about the greatness of Jaylen Brown. So the Celtics played team basketball last night. Their shots were falling unlike the previous 2 games, and that was a big difference here.
Yeah, that was a huge difference for Boston. So we'll see what happens if the Celtics can wrap it up in Game 5. Now, San Antonio, they take a 3-1 lead over Portland. De'Aaron Fox had 28 points, and their Wemby, even though his first game back after being in the concussion protocol, didn't affect him too much. He had 27 points and 12 boards, including 11 defensive boards. So really didn't have to do too much for the Spurs. They really kind of look like they're taking control of that series as expected. I lost my place for a second. Yeah. Also, Toronto and the Cavs, they're now tied in their series. Scotty Barnes had 23 points each. Also for him and Brandon Graham as well. He also had 23. RJ Barrett had 18. Colin Murray Boyles, I should say, had 15 off the bench for Toronto. And it looks like we're going to have a best of three between the Cavs and the Raptors.
I'll stick with this. I'll do the second question first, like a typical athlete. The Cavaliers Toronto series has been pretty much not so much back and forth game by game, but every 2 games, of course, Cleveland took care of home court in the first 2 games. Toronto has looked great in these last 2 games. I want to point out this statistic to you, LaKeena, from yesterday, and this is the main reason why, in my opinion, that the Cavaliers lost. Points in the paint: Cleveland 38, the Raptors 50. Going back to Cleveland, LaKeena, where's my guy Jared Allen at? Where's Evan Mobley? And I told you during our playoff preview show about over almost 2 weeks ago now that Evan Mobley is going to be the key on whether Cleveland moves on or not. Toronto, yes, they're a young team, but also a whole lot of Raptors going inside that paint yesterday without being challenged too much, and then that's going to be a problem for that Cavaliers defense going into the rest of the series. Offensively, yes, you have Donovan Mitchell who likes to carry teams on his back, but James Harden's going to have to step up. Evan Mobley's going to have to step up. A couple of guys off their bench going to have to step up if the Cavaliers want to get this done. Toronto, they're playing with house money right now. Scotty Barnes is the first time he's been healthy over the last 2 or 3 years. Brandon Ingram, who I thought early in the year should have been all-star. You mentioned he had a great performance yesterday with 23 points. And the Raptors are getting contributions from the other players coming off the bench as well. One in particular, Mr. Murray Boyles, he had a very good Colin Murray Boyles had a very good game yesterday as well, coming off the bench. So Toronto's really getting it done from their supporting cast. You're led by your 2 superstars you mentioned, but their supporting cast really have gotten it done in these last 2 games. You saw the example once again yesterday.
Yep, and the Cavs, unfortunately, they haven't been able to get their supporting cast going, like you said. So we'll see. Yeah, it's a best of 3 now in this one. So we'll see what happens there. Now going to Saturday's games, eventful, I think would be one way to put it. Minnesota, they take a 3-1 lead against Denver. Ayo Dosunmu had 43 points. He becomes the first player since Steph Curry, when he did it back in 2016, to score 40 points off the bench in the NBA playoffs. Unfortunately, though, the injuries have been the story here in this series, especially for Minnesota. Dante DiVincenzo, he got hurt. He tore his Achilles, and he's done for the year. Anthony Edwards hurt his other knee. He's going to be out for at the very least 2 weeks. So guys like Ayo, guys like Julius Randle, he actually made some defensive starts. He had 15 points, got a couple of big rebounds late in that game. Jaden McDaniels had 12 points as well. Naz Reid had 17 off the bench. So on the flip side, though, for Denver, 30 points for Jamal Murray, 24 for Jokic, and unfortunately, he and McDaniels got into it after McDaniels hit a layup at the end of the game, which that wasn't really necessary. Thankfully, though, that there are fines, there are no suspensions. I'm sure Draymond Green is not very happy, but that's a different conversation for a different time. But but I mean, it's kind of like interesting. Yeah, Minnesota's gonna have to do without the 2 of their top guys. They've shown that they can do it, but if you're Minnesota, you better wrap up the series tonight.
It's going to be tough because even though what Jokic did was stupid, I think it's smart for what he did, setting its tone for his teammates going into Game 5. Because now, what you mentioned with those injuries to Dante DiVincenzo and Anthony Edwards, Denver has the momentum right now, and they have their home court in the series. So they have Game 5. They have to go on the road and win it in a Game 6. If they do that, they have Game 7 back in their backyard, and so they'll definitely put doubts into this young Minnesota team. But if you're the Denver Nuggets, you got to get Christian Brown going. Aaron Gordon missed Game 3. We talked about it last Friday on the show, and of course he came back last Saturday. It didn't make a difference, but Aaron Gordon's got to step up now, especially with the 2 guys over the flip side for Minnesota being gone. He's going to have to be the key here, and also too, Bruce Brown and Tim Hardaway Jr., who had a good year. All of them going to have to step up if they can come back from 3-1 to force a Game 7 and win this series. So on the flip side for Minnesota, it's definitely going to be a team effort, but it's definitely going to be tough if Denver decides to get their heads out of and start playing team.
We'll see what happens tonight out there in the Mile High City. The Knicks got got a huge win tying their series against Atlanta. OG and Novi had 22 points for the Knicks. Cat had 19 points for Jalen Brunson as they now this series will be going into a best of 3.
Well, the Knicks decided to get their heads out of you know what and start playing Knicks basketball. That's where we saw Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson did their thing, but the other guys you mentioned decided to step up and play team defense and start making their shots. Atlanta they didn't know what to do as far as when the Knicks got focused there late in that first half. So the Knicks got their wake up call for losing a tough one in Game 3. They really gave that game away, in my opinion. But this is the wake up call that they needed. Hopefully, they can carry this momentum to win the next 2 games to close out the series. Because let's be honest here, the way the Atlanta's been playing throughout the series, they're a team that they're definitely playing on house money, and they're not going to go away anytime soon. You got to take it away from them.
OKC took a 3-0 series lead against Phoenix. SGA had 42 points. What more can you say about him? And Detroit, they own upset alert here. Orlando, you give them credit for playing. They're of course we heard the rule we talked about in our previous show a couple weeks ago about such. Paul Banchero, he had 25 apiece, as well as Desmond Bain. But I think they're just postponing the inevitable. I think Detroit needs to get their head out of their butts. Speaking of, Jalen Duren only had 8 points. He was 3 for 10 from the field. So you could do a little bit more, dude. Look, Tobias Harris is doing his thing. So is Kate Cunningham. Azar Thompson, he has 17 points, playoff high for him. But Jalen Duren, you need to be doing more, dude, to help your buddies out because you don't want Orlando thinking they can win this series. So you better get your butts going. Luckily, tonight especially.
Add Isaiah Stewart's name onto that list as well. As you mentioned, Detroit's bench was ineffective last Saturday, and you giving Orlando Magic that team confidence, and they think they can win this series. They already stole Game 1 off your home court. They dominated Game 4 here last Saturday, winning by Game 3 rather, winning by 7. If they win Game 4, I think this series is over. But LaKeena, I think I said this to you and a couple other people. If this Pistons series goes past 5 games, which I think it will. Obviously, the Pistons had to win in 6 or in 7. If this series goes past 5 games, the Pistons are a little bit more exposed than we thought. Yes, Kate Cunningham missed the last few weeks of the regular season because of a puncture lung. Got it. But they are. We were told that they were better than the Atlanta match. They haven't played like it so far in the series. That's why they're down 2-1. They better take a page out of the New York Knicks playbook, because if they don't come out on fire tonight with a tough game on the road, your back's to against the wall, JB Bickerstaff's got a little bit more problems than just quote unquote getting ready for the next round. So don't look ahead. Play 48 minutes of tough basketball. Get strong production off from your bench, and you should be able to win this going around. You should be able to win this series in 6, obviously, because we're going to have a Game 6 now since Orlando won last Saturday. But you got to get more production from your bench if you're the Pistons, because so far it's been hook and crook in this series.
Yeah, we'll see if Detroit, this is their chance to prove it tonight as they'll face Orlando in a pivotal Game 4 for them. That's going to be at 7 o'clock on NBC and streaming on Peacock. And on NBC, SN, and also on Peacock, you got OKC and Phoenix. We'll see if OKC can wrap that series up. And like I said, Minnesota hoping to clinch their series. No DiVincenzo, no Ant. So could be the IO show again. We'll see. We'll see if Denver gets their heads out of their tuckuses, and maybe they can at least cut it to 3-2. We'll see. That game will be also on NBC and Peacock. That's nightcap tonight.
Your schedule for tomorrow, Tuesday, it looks like this. All these games will, 2 of the 3 games will be on ESPN. The first game on ESPN is Game 5 between the Celtics and the 76ers. That's at 6 o'clock on ESPN. On NBC at 7 o'clock tomorrow, it's the Knicks and the Hawks Game 5 from MSG. That series is tied up at 2 games apiece. It's followed by the Trailblazers and the Spurs. The Spurs lead in Game 5. The Spurs lead that best-of-7 series 3-1. That's at 8:30 p.m. tomorrow. That game can be seen on ESPN.
All right. Wednesday, pivotal game 5 for something. Could it be tied at 2, or could be Orlando thrown in the clinch? We'll see. But this game will be on Prime Video on Wednesday on ESPN 6:30. You got Toronto and Cleveland, another pivotal game 5. We'll see who can win that game, perhaps take control of that series. Now, if necessary, we'll see what happens tonight. But if necessary, Phoenix and OKC game 5, that'll be on Prime. That one will be on Prime Video. And we'll see the Lakers can wrap their series up against the Rockets. That'll be at 9 o'clock on ESPN.
Your schedule for Thursday, if necessary, will be Game 6 between the Spurs and the Trailblazers. On Thursday, time will be announced for this game, but it will be Game 6 between the Knicks and the Atlanta Hawks from Atlanta. If necessary, which I think it will be. Game 6 between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets, time to be announced for that one, if Game 6 occurs in that series. And if Game 6, if necessary, which I don't think it will, but the 76ers and the Boston Celtics will do battle from Philadelphia. That's if that Game 6 will be necessary. Me and LaKeena both won't be necessary, but we have to read this to you for information purposes only. So that's your schedule for Thursday.
And that's your schedule for this week in the NBA. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you. Let's do that hockey, Sid. We have a couple of series that are already been clinched in the books. Of course, Carolina beat Ottawa 4-2 to win their series, sweeping them 4-0. Also, Colorado, they beat the Kings, wrapping things up there. Nathan McKinnon had a goal and assist on that one. Also, shout out to Anze Kopitar, who caps off a great career, winning a couple of Stanley Cups. Will probably be a first ballot Hall of Famer in a few years. But a wonderful career for him. But they just ran into a buzzsaw in Colorado. So those two will await their respective opponents in that series. Now going into yesterday, real quick, the Ducks got a nice win in overtime. They beat Edmonton, and Anaheim, don't look now, but they take a 3-1 lead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this has been the shocker of the Stanley Cup playoffs thus far. Congrats to Coach Joel Quinn for 124 wins as a head coach in the playoffs. That's second all time in the National Hockey League. So congratulations to him on that accomplishment. As we said last week, LaKeena, somebody's going to get physical, so something's going to have to happen. And the Ducks have set the tempo for this series, especially in their last two games. You mentioned they got the win yesterday in extra time. So the young Anaheim squad, they've been quietly doing it quietly all year long. Coach Joel Quinfield gets the most out of these guys. We saw that here in Chicago in the last decade with all the talent that the Blackhawks had. I'm not saying the Ducks are going to go on to win the Stanley Cup, but they really caught Edmonton off his heels. Edmonton, I just can't explain what's going on with them right now. It's been usually they're one of those teams, just like the Dallas Stars we talk about every year. You think they'll get to a point where they just say, screw it. Well, it's time for us to get over it. It hasn't happened yet for them. I'm not saying this series is over, but the Anaheim Ducks, the way they're playing, like it sure seems like it's over.
We'll see what happens. I think they play again tomorrow, so we'll see what happens there in Edmonton. Now, Tampa, they beat Montreal 3-2. Brandon Hagel had a goal and a couple of assists. That series is tied at 2 apiece. And Buffalo, look at Buffalo. They take a 3-1 lead after just pummeling the Bruins 6-1. I don't think anybody had that score coming, but look, they had 4 goals. Those first period goals, Josh Duman and Zach Benson kind of led the way there, and just a monster game for the Sabres. And look, I think this is going to be one of those things where they take a 3-1 lead, yet you see the Bruins catching up.
The Brewers may win Game 5, but I think that's it. It's been a tough physical series for both these teams. And Boston just has been out muscle and manhandled. They give the Sabres credit. Very good goaltending, timely scoring. That's what the recipes you need to win in the playoffs. And Buffalo's been the better team throughout. And it's not a mistake that they're leading the series 3-1. And going to the Tampa Bay Montreal series, both the Montreal's victories in this series have come in the extra session. Tampa Bay again shocked in Game 1. They really played better in this series, so that series is tied up at 2 games apiece. I think whoever wins Game 5 of that series, I think is going to win. The series between the Lightning and the Canadians.
Yeah, but going back to the Buffalo Boston game, Alex Leon had 24 saves, so 23 saves, 3 saves, I should say. But he's just been, being a stonewall for the Sabres. So we'll see if he can keep it up now. Pittsburgh, look, they saved face a little bit. They got their first game of this series against Philadelphia. Philadelphia is still up 3-1, I should say, in their series. Chris Letang had a goal there, and Matt Boldy, I guess he's making up for lost time. In his whole career, he's never had any playoff goals. In his whole, I think he's been playing for 11 or 12 years. He's never had a playoff goal. This is that overtime goal with less than 30 seconds left. That was that's his third goal already in these playoffs. So made up for lost time there. But Dallas loses to the Wild, and now that series is tied.
I think the Wild have the momentum, LaKeena, and I told you this would be the series to watch. I said Minnesota in 6 there, now 2 victories away from achieving that goal. The Stars, they play good, but they're one of those things we talked about earlier with Edmonton. They have a Stanley Cup type team, but they just can't get over the hump. The Wild, they've been very good all year. Not too many people are talking about them. I said watch out for them. Them and the Wild, they're Central Division rivals, Western Conference rivals. They always go at it, and the Wild is going to stand tall to them. So far, they have. So it's the best 2 out of 3 in that series. Now, going back to the Pittsburgh-Philadelphia series, yes, Pittsburgh's got 1 for pride, but I still believe that Philadelphia is going to win this series. Remember, they won the first 2 games on the road at Pittsburgh, so they're not afraid to go back there. So I wouldn't be surprised if Philadelphia closes it out in 5, I should say.
Yep. Going into the schedule for this weekend. Speaking of Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, Philly will try to wrap their series up in Pittsburgh. Hopefully, the Penguins fans don't throw anything. If that's the case, we know those old rivals go back years. Vegas, we can talk about that Vegas Utah series, but Utah is up 2-1. We'll see if Vegas can tie that series. Both these games are on ESPN tonight, by the way.
Your schedule for tomorrow, Tuesday at 6:30 on TNT, True TV, and HBO Max is the Bruins and Sabres Game 5 of that series from Buffalo. The Sabres lead that best-of-7 series 3-1. At 7 o'clock on ESPN2 on Tuesday, we'll have Game 5 between the Dallas Stars and the Minnesota Wild, live from Dallas. At 9 o'clock on Tuesday on TNT, True TV, and HBO Max, we'll have Game 5 of the Anaheim-Edmonton series. They'll be live from Edmonton in Alberta, Canada. So there's your schedule for Tuesday.
Now, Wednesday's schedule is a little bit in flux right now. The only game we know for sure is Montreal and Tampa, a pivotal Game 5. That'll be at 6 o'clock. What network? We don't know yet. I guess it's all stemming from what happens in that Pittsburgh-Philadelphia game. If Philly wins, you got to think that game will be the first one. And then, but if somehow Pittsburgh does extend the series, that'll probably be the first game up. Then it'll be Utah and Vegas. That'll be the nightcap, obviously. That's a pivotal Game 5 in that series, but we'll see what happens tonight there. So, I can't tell you what I can tell you the time of one, but I can't tell you what channel these are going to be on because NHL has decided the matchups, the schedule and the networks yet.
Gary Bettman, good grief. All right, your schedule for Thursday looks like this. If necessary, Game 6 between Edmonton and Anaheim will take place in Anaheim. And Game 6, we don't know what time yet, but we know for sure this Game 6 will take place back at the Twin Cities in the state of Minnesota. It's the Minnesota Wild versus the Dallas Stars. And that's your schedule for Thursday and for this week in the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you. As we wrap things up here in our sports poll reset, but before we just go to Old School TV Monday, couple notes here. Jonathan Grenard, of course, during the draft, this is a big trade. He got traded to the Eagles, so that beefs up that front seven. As far as the Juwan Jennings saga out in San Francisco, well, Jonathan said that we're basically saying we're keeping him, but I guess what he's trying to say, that he'll listen to offers. I guess. So real quick, what do you think about those little notes there?
Yeah, as far as Juwan Jennings, good luck with that. I know he's been a very productive receiver for the 49ers over the last couple of years. Now with the addition of Mike Evans, I know his targets are going to go down a bit, so I'm sure he's seeing that. Well, I don't know if there's any more room for me, and so I'll see what I can get on the trade market. So, John Lynch, let's see if you can get anything for him. I don't know if they can, but like you said, good luck with that. We'll see what happens.
All right. So, and also too, at the Zurich Classic in New Orleans, these are team events. The Fitzpatrick brothers, we know Matt Fitzpatrick, great golfer, but his younger brother Alex, who's a good golfer in his own right, he's won a couple of titles in the Nationwide Tour. I don't know what they still call it, the Nationwide Tour, but they won. The Zurich Classic of New Orleans yesterday. And of course, this is the second of his last 3 tournaments that they won. I'm talking about Matthew. But now, because of this win, Alex gets his tour card. So now there are going to be 2 Fitzpatricks on the PGA Tour.
Double trouble, double the trouble.
Well, he's a good putter. So he definitely. That's a really great. Those are 2 really good, great golfing brothers. So congrats to them.
Yeah. Anything else before we turn it over to Old School TV Monday?
Nope, but let's go animated for this edition of Old School TV Monday for the first time in a while.
All right. Actually, I think I'll give you just a little bit more credit for this one, but we're going to the animation/cartoon world for this week's edition of Old School TV Monday. And today we'll salute the late great Jim Henson's Muppet Babies. Yes, it was known for as the Muppet Babies. It was an American fantasy comedy animated television series produced by Marvel Productions for Jim Henson Productions. The show portrayed toddler versions of the Muppets living together in a nursery under the care of a woman known as Nanny, who was faceless, by the way, involving the concepts of the power of imagination and creative problem solving. The show's main target group was for children under between the ages of 2 and 5. The idea of presenting the Muppets as children appeared in a dream sequence of The Muppets Take Manhattan from 1984, released 2 months before The Muppet Babies debuted. The idea was a success, and it was transformed into the spinoff. The show aired from September 15th of 1984 until November 2nd of 1991 as part of the Saturday morning cartoons lineup on CBS. The show received universal acclaim for its animation, visuals, writing, humor, educational values and appeal to younger and older audiences. It spawned a successful merchandise and won 7 Daytime Emmy Awards, including 4 consecutive awards for outstanding animated programming, as well as the Humanitas Prize. Due to its popularity, the show remained on television in the United States for a decade.
It also aired on syndication as well after even during its CBS run. So look, I think this is one of those cartoons that Saturday morning cartoons that they were the epitome of Saturday morning cartoons in the 80s especially. And it was only one of the few times when it aired about 8. I think the latest it aired here was like, correct me if I'm wrong, so about like 8:30 or something like that.
Yeah,
on Saturday mornings. I think it was on as early like at 7 o'clock. I actually did get up for in the later seasons. It came on at 7 o'clock. I actually did wake up that early. I actually shocked my mom when I was up that early on a Saturday. But your mom and the Muppet Babies are on. But yeah, they covered pretty much everything like pop culturally in the 80s. They covered Star Wars. They covered the Brat Pack and RoboCop and all the other great cartoons and TV shows using cool like animation and stuff like that, and flashbacks and dream sequences and stuff. And the Nanny, of course, faceless Nanny was voiced by the wonderful Barbara Billingsley, of course, from Leave It to Beaver fame, I should say. But yeah, who was your favorite Muppet Babies characters?
I like Kermit because he was funny and that voice really drew your attention. He was funny. He was fun as well. I like Kermit the Frog. And Baby Piggy wasn't too bad either. And you mentioned about the characters of the show. We'll give you the rest of the lineup for the Muppet Babies. It was Baby Animal, Baby Skeeter, Baby Scooter, Baby Fozzie, which was very underrated, by the way. Baby Piggy, as I mentioned, Baby Kermit, Baby Gonzo, and Baby Rolf.
Rolf was my guy. I love Rolf. You can tell. I don't know about you, but you can tell that was supposed to meant to have been the brother of the group, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So he was more the musician, cool musician type. He loved his music. He had the music note with the bib. That was really cute. Now, as far as the merchandise was concerned, look, they have like those little stuffed Muppets and the stuffed Muppet little things at McDonald's. I had a couple of them, but I think Baby Pig was very hard to find. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but yeah. So. Look, Muppet Baby was one of those cartoons where, look, I know there's a newer version that aired from like 2018 to 2022, but nothing beats the original. So sorry, folks. But yeah, It is on YouTube though. For
yes,
those
every
of you.
single episode. Yes,
yes. So unfortunately, I'm a little surprised that Disney Plus that hasn't since Disney owns the Muppets now. It's been like the last 5 or 6 years, but I'm surprised they don't have that version, the 80s version. But I guess because of music rights and stuff. But all the episodes are on YouTube. So if you want to leave it some memories, or if you got kids or even grandkids, if you want to introduce them to those Muppets babies, it's right there for you on YouTube.
All right, as I mentioned earlier, they won 4 consecutive Daytime Emmy Awards for Outstanding Animated Programming. The Muppet Babies gained 12 awards from the 27 nominations for the Daytime Emmy Awards. So just another stat to throw out at you guys. They continue to win the category until 1989 for the most wins in that category, tied with Arthur.
Ooh,
that's another show we should do down the road for Old School TV.
Yeah.
They mark that.
Yeah, well, definitely. So, yeah. So, like I said, I mean, this is one of those cartoons where it kind of like epitomizes what Saturday morning cartoons are all about. So, it's like I said, that's a cartoon I miss. But like I said, all the episodes are on YouTube, so it's all right there if you want to relive those great memories and such. And look, I love how they kind of intertwined all the A's, so the A's like television shows and movies. They kind of interconnected with the Muppet Babies. So. Yeah, they use your imagination. So it was actually really cool. So yeah, that was a very, very innovative. I can see why it won a lot of awards, during their run.
Yeah, so for this week's edition of Old School TV Monday, we salute the Saturday morning TV animated series, Jim Henson's Muppet Babies. LaKeena, take us home.
I won't sing the theme song, folks, I promise. You can follow LaKeena McGee
either.
yeah, smart. You can follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80, that's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in the living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in the living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Of course, if you missed our segment talking about the Muppet Babies or anything for Old School TV Monday, if you missed an interview or if you missed our discussion earlier from the NFL draft in Pittsburgh, which broke a lot of records, by the way. So shout out to the folks in Pittsburgh for showing up for those 3 days of the draft. And the weather was good too, so I think that helped a lot. But yeah, so if you could, you catch it, because our show, Sean Sierra Sports, the Smoke Fellas, and so much more great content. Catch it anytime, anywhere on the Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook, YouTube channels.
And we will provide.
All right, I know the world's a little bit crazy right now, but hang in there. And if you're in the brunt of that storm that's going to be coming in the next couple of days in various parts of the country, please be careful out there. Stay dry. Be safe. For Sid, I'm LaKeena. Enjoy the baseball and the playoffs, both the NBA and NHL, and so much more. We're going to talk about this again on Friday. This is Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you guys then.
Holla!